My name is George Merrill Webb, and I live in Springville, Utah, and I grew up in St. George, Utah. I was born there in 1941. And in about 1951, when they started setting off the bombs out in Nevada, I guess that testing went on for a number of years. I don't remember how long, but I do remember getting up in the morning. My dad was a dairy farmer, and we would get up to go milk the cows sometimes early. At least I went with him sometimes, and I remember seeing the orangish flash that came after the bombs were set off. The flash would occur early in the morning, about, 5:30, 6 o'clock, and you could see the flash over the Black Hill to the west of town. And then I remember seeing that 2 or 3 different times. And then later on, during the day, there would be a cloud that would come over. I don't remember much about that, except for 1 or 2 times we were not allowed to go out on the playground. I would have been in about the 5th grade. That would have been 10, 11 years after I was born. So we weren't allowed to go out on the playground. But we had a film that was shown. I've learned since that it was by the Atomic Energy Commission that told us that there was no need to be alarmed or no panic, because it was just a natural occurrence that this dust would occur. Those are about the only 2 things that I really remember, is the flash on a couple of occasions and not going out on the playground once, and then a couple of times when the dust settled onto some of the trees and on our farm equipment south of town. As a result of this fallout, I have a younger sister who's 10 years younger than I am, and a younger brother who's 12 and a half years younger than I am. Both of them have suffered from thyroid problems. Both of them are taking a synthetic thyroid material. My sister has had a daughter whose thyroid is completely non-functional, and my brother has a daughter whose thyroid was also completely non-functional. They discovered that when she was about 5 or 6 years old. And since then, both of them have been on Synthroid, which I think is synthetic thyroid material. About 8 or 9 years ago, I was diagnosed with a tumor on my parathyroid gland. And as a result of that, I had kidney stones. Now, I don't know if I can directly relate the parathyroid problem to the fallout, because this has occurred a long time after I was in St. George. But at least it's related, I think. And I think that's about... I had a younger brother who was, he was almost 10, so he was born 4 years after I was. And so he would have died in about 1954. And after a sudden illness, and the doctors didn't know what it was. And they attributed it to diabetes, because they found a trace of sugar in his blood when he was unconscious. They gave him a shot of insulin, and he went into insulin shock. My parents wouldn't allow anybody to talk to them about his death. His name was Kent Webb. So I don't know if that was related, but it was during that time. My dad was a dairy farmer, like I mentioned, and so we drank raw milk, and I think that some of the dust that accumulated on our alfalfa contained the radioactive materials, and that was incorporated into our milk. So I don't have any way of verifying that, but that was some of the history of my own family.